Riverside FM.
Episode 3. Let's go. We made it, y'all. I'm in a nice quiet room right now. My baby is asleep. My 2 older teenagers are at camp. They're out the house. So we're going to get this done. I did a lot of shout outs in episode 1 and 2, but I forgot to shout out a very important person in my journey. And that person is me. I set some personal goals for myself with the show. And one of my goals was that I would stay consistent with the content. And I've been dropping an episode at least once a week. So if you're in the car, at work, at home, listening, give me a round of applause. I'll wait. Thank you. Thank you. And I always got to thank the listeners out there as well for locking in with me. Round of applause for yourselves. I'm learning a lot from episode 1 to now. And I like to start this show off with reminding you that this is the People's Podcast. So please email any questions or requests to info@blackgirlstruecrime.com. I'm going to make sure that's linked in the bio. And y'all, I'm serious. Write me. Number 1, because I'm paying monthly for that custom inbox domain. So yeah, I'm going to need y'all to use that. Let me get my coins worth. All right. And episode 3, right? They say death comes in threes, and true crime can be a little dark sometimes, but not all things that come in threes are bad. In basketball, you got the big 3. LeBron, Wade, Bosh, killing them. Buckets. I have 3 kids. What a blessing. I love my kids, y'all. And also, 3 chances ain't bad. Getting a chance after your second chance was cute. So hopefully episode 3 has earned us a seat at the podcasting table, and I'm excited. Today we're going to talk about a crime that you may not have heard so much, even if you're on the true crime circuit. I think this case is not really reported on a lot, maybe because it's solved. But the most important reason why the story needs to be told is because of the emergency team response. The case we're reviewing today was a huge blunder that ultimately cost a life. And this is the case of Deanna Cook. Deanna was a 32-year-old woman in Dallas, Texas. On August 19th, 2012, her family became concerned when they realized that no one had seen or heard from her in a couple of days. Now, Deanna frequently spoke with her mother almost every day, and she missed church that morning, which was unusual for her. It was also so unusual that her mother, sister, and her 2 daughters decided to go to her home after service and do a welfare check. When they arrived, they knew something was off, so they decided to call the police when they noticed water leaking from the home by way of the garage and the dogs barking in the back as if they had not been attended to in a while. Her mother dialed 911, and the response her family received is just absolutely heartbreaking. It was a tough decision for me to include the audio of these 911 calls because they are truly disturbing. But I'm going to play the audio from this call because there are just no words. I can't even begin to describe how frustrating this is to hear, so I'm just going to play it.
My daughter has been missing since Friday.
How old is your daughter?
She is 32.
Okay. Have you called all the jails and hospitals?
Ma'am, can you just send the police over here?
No, ma'am. Do you think somebody did something to her?
Yes, I do. We got it in.
Okay, let me know if she's inside.
Full of water and all over the floor. Something happened in here. Her room is tore up.
Okay, ma'am, I'm sending police.
Now, this was the actual response of a 911 dispatch, so let's break this down before we move on. You pull up to your family member's home to check on them, only to realize something is amiss. You call the police, or let's say 911 for help, and they almost immediately disregard your concern. This dispatch insisted the family look other places instead of really the first place you would expect someone to be, their home. Also, in what world is it okay to instruct people to breach a crime scene, especially when you yourself don't have a complete picture of what's going on? I'm curious to know the training process for when you work as a 911 operator, because I can't imagine why this person didn't ask more questions. Why do they make the assumption that this was an overreaction on behalf of the family? Not only that, but you led these people to discover the body of their family member themselves because of your ignorance, because that's really what this was. just straight up ignorance. This dispatcher was fired after this incident and also had the nerve to appeal the firing, which they ultimately lost, as this was a well-deserved termination. But let's continue in our story, because I hate to tell y'all this, but it gets worse. So her sister kicks in the back door to gain entry into the home. When they enter the home, there is a strong odor, and her house is in disarray with water everywhere. They eventually find Deanna dead in her bathtub with the water still running. The scene is very suspicious. So suspicious, in fact, that Deanna's mother immediately suspects Deanna's ex, Delvecchio Patrick, was responsible, and she expresses to police when they arrived. Now, police began investigating because it was clear there had been a disturbance. There were doors kicked in inside the home, and there were items knocked off the walls, and things were just out of place for what was clearly a struggle. As they continue to process Deanna's home and interview family and friends, it becomes clear that her ex is likely involved with what happened. Deanna and Delvecchio had a very complicated relationship with a history of domestic violence, and almost everyone in their family, in their lives, friends, family, and even neighbors on both sides attested to this domestic violence. There were multiple calls to 911 dated as far back as 2009 in court documents from physical altercations where police were called and arrests were made. During this discovery, it was also noted that Deanna had made a call to 911 on August 16, 2012. So this was the day before the murder, to report that Patrick was across the street from her home in a park, and she was concerned that he was going to break in when she left for work. At that time, she asked someone to check it out for her, and according to court documents, she informed the dispatch that she was unable to get a restraining order, even though he's tried to kill her 3 times. They also discovered another call was made on August 17th, so this is the morning of the murder, at 10:52 a.m., and it lasted 17 minutes from Deanna to 911. And this is probably one of the worst parts of the story, y'all. This call recorded the murder in real time, and she wasn't discovered until 2 days later. So how does that even happen? I am going to spare y'all from playing the audio because it's just unsettling, and unfortunately, it's very easy to find online. During this call, you can hear her say Delvecchio's name several times, including Red, a well-known nickname for him, and she is pleading for her life. You can also hear Delvecchio saying, "I'm going to kill you," and other profanities. Now, the call disconnected because the struggle escalated and ultimately Deanna dies. Police didn't arrive to the scene until 1 hour later. They reportedly stopped for food because the call was coded as a less urgent call. Now, this second dispatcher was also disciplined and later resigned. She reported that Deanna was inaudible on the line and that she didn't recognize the danger of the situation. She says she was unable to obtain the address from Deanna and had to use another method through the system to trace the call. This took 9 minutes. She attempted to call back several times when the line disconnected, but she didn't get an answer. When police arrived, they knocked, and because they didn't get an answer, they left. So, on top of all the trauma and grief of losing a loved one, the family had to endure the discovery of this 911 call, and I'm sure they have had the displeasure of listening to it over and over again. And, y'all know, the root of this story is really the saddest case of domestic violence. Victims rely on people and community to protect them and help them navigate their way out of toxic relationships because, as is Deanna's case, you become trapped. And unfortunately, Deanna was failed by her community. We are humans and we do make mistakes. You know, we're not perfect, but we can't make the mistakes that this emergency response team made where the ultimate price is paid. My hope is that there is growth from this experience, not because agencies are trying to save face and transfer liabilities, but honestly, so this doesn't happen again. And as you can imagine, there were many lawsuits and court cases related to this case regarding the response of this team by the family. But again, we just really want to prevent these types of things from happening, because when it happens, it's tragic and it affects us all. So with that said, that is all we have for today, folks. Rest easy, Deanna. I'm Lauren, and I'm signing off until next week.